What's up everyone, it's the Law School Lumberjack. I'm here with another installment of our Property Law 101 series, Fee is Not Simple. Today we're going to go through a case brief, the case of Caroline and Roper. Now this case can be quite difficult to understand at times. So the reason for this is that the court goes through a very technical legal analysis of this case, and then partway through they switch to kind of considering all the facts and the testator's intentions. So hopefully I can shed some light on this case, make it a bit easier for everyone. I'd highly recommend that you watch my previous video on fee simple interest so that this case becomes a lot more clear, because this case deals with a very fine distinction between what's called a fee simple determinable and a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. So without further ado, let's go through the facts of the case. I'll keep it very brief. Interestingly, Caroline is not a woman. Caroline is actually a village, I believe, in Alberta, and Roper is a family. Specifically, Mr. Roper is the party in question here. So essentially what happens in this case is the village of Caroline really wants some land to build up their community center. Mr. Roper has an acre of land. However, Mr. Roper is smart and knows that it's possible that the city might down the line want to use the land for commercial purposes. So what he does is he says to the city that he will transfer the land to the city, this acre of land to the city, for them to build the community center on. However, the acre of land shall revert if used for anything other than a community center. So remember, he uses the words, "it shall revert if used for anything other than a community center." This becomes really important and really is the center of the court's analysis in the first part of this case, being the really technical legal analysis. So the question in the court's mind really is this a fee simple determinable interest that was transferred to the city of Caroline, or is it a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent? The basic difference is with a fee simple determinable, if a certain condition isn't always met, the land automatically reverts back to the original grantor. Conversely, with a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, basically the party involved has a right of re-entry, which then they have to exercise. The other big difference is that when it comes to a fee simple with a condition subsequent, you have to consider whether or not that condition subsequent is void because of what's called the law of perpetuities. Now, I won't go into that law of perpetuities just yet. Just understand that basically if something goes on for too long or a condition remains in question for too long, it may offend what's called the rule against the perpetuities and be void for basically uncertainty or how long something's going to take. So remember, the words of the transfer from Mr. Roper to the city or the village were that the acre shall revert if it was used for anything other than a community center. The problem is, it didn't really fall into either category of, based on that wording, of whether or not it was a fee simple determinable or a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent. Words such as until, as long as, those kind of words denote a fee simple determinable, and the words on the condition at, but if, or if it happens that, denote a condition subsequent. The court basically looks at the words and says, okay, this really is a condition subsequent in substance, because what it is, it's basically a future condition that might happen in the future. The court says that this condition subsequent is therefore void because it offends the rule against perpetuities. For the sake of clarity, if the court found that it was a fee simple determinable, they would not have to have considered whether or not it offends the rule against perpetuities. So basically then, the court goes on and says, okay, so presumably, if this condition offended against the rule against perpetuities, the condition's gone, Mr. Roper transferred basically a fee simple interest in the land to the city of Roper, and they can do whatever they want with it at this point, based on a plain reading of the transfer. However, the court then goes on to say, but that wasn't the intention of Mr. Roper. Mr. Roper's intention was really to have a fee simple determinable. What he really wanted was to make sure that the city only used the land for the community center, and if they stopped using it for the community center, that the land would automatically go back to his family. And that's really what a fee simple determinable is. It basically is a transfer of an interest in land, assuming that a certain state of affairs will occur, and if that state of affair doesn't occur at any point, then that interest then reverts back to the original grantor or the original grantor's estate. So the court essentially says this is what Mr. Roper intended. He really intended for the land to be a fee simple determinable, for the land to revert back to his family for the benefit of his family if the city ever used this land for anything other than a community center. So the court says even though Mr. Roper made a mistake in the actual drafting of the language, because he's a layman, it's clear that this was a mistake, and we're going to treat it as a fee simple determinable interest, and as a result, the land reverts back to the Ropers. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Again, it might be helpful to watch my other video on fee simple interest in order to get a sort of primer on fee simple determinables versus condition subsequents. I'd really appreciate it if this video was helpful for you to like and subscribe. Take care and see you next time.